The Leake Mound Interpretive Trail is sponsored by the Federal Highway Administration, the Georgia Department of Transportation, and the University of West Georgia.
Hi, and welcome to another Leake Mounds Interpretive Trail podcast. If you're following along on the trail, this podcast corresponds to the From the Earth panel. I'm Marcus Toft.
And I'm Jennifer Teeter. So, Marcus, I think this podcast covers a pretty important topic that we haven't directly addressed, but relates to other podcasts that we've done. We've talked about how archaeology is multidisciplined, and we've talked about why the Leake Site is located where it is. So what is the common denominator in those two things, Marcus?
Well,
for the listeners, I've caught Marcus off guard.
Yes. If I had to be put on the spot and ask that question, I would say that the common denominator is minerals?
Yes.
So, Jennifer, what I take it you're hinting at is the fact that minerals are the common denominator between all those things.
One of them, yes.
One of the common denominators, right. Because geology is a field or a discipline that archaeologists will refer to or use in their investigations.
Precisely. And
the presence of minerals in around the Leake Site was one of the reasons for its location.
Yes.
So, Jennifer, when we talked with Pam and Terry from the Department of Transportation, and they were telling us about, and this is on another podcast for those of you who may not have listened to that one, they told us about some of the extra work that goes into an excavation besides just digging. Even though that's most of the work that they do, there's really a lot that happens both before and after the digging.
Right. They research the site, and sometimes they have to branch out into other fields to create a larger context for the site that they are about to excavate. And
they have to realize that, or they do realize, that the Leake Site didn't exist in a vacuum. So what was its relation to the landscape? And in this case, a major factor was that there's a lot of minerals in the area.
And that's where geology comes in. They can look at the geological makeup of the site and realize that's probably one of the factors that played a role in the Leake Site. First off, the occupants settling there, and then the Leake Site becoming the major
ceremonial center and
exactly
kind of hub of interaction.
I mean, we talked about how people were using raw materials and making items and then possibly exporting them. They wouldn't be able to do that if there weren't the raw materials located nearby.
Right. And remember, a gateway community is located at an area where lots of different items are being made, which fits with the Leake Site and the rich mineral resources available.
So now we have a context for the Leake Site within the surrounding area, but there's also an important context in the history of the area, too.
So we've moved from space, and now we're moving through time.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, we've talked about in some of the other podcasts that a lot of the traditions and customs and different things that brought the American Indians to the Leake Site have persisted even until present day.
And the use and exploitation of minerals is one of those.
Right. Bartow County has a really rich history of mining, which of course is basically the process of extracting minerals from the earth.
Right. Minerals have just been important to everybody that has occupied the area.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think another theme that we've seen through these podcasts is the different ways that they have been used by society. Euro-Americans really exploited them and used them as material goods, whereas the American Indians sort of had a more symbolic reason for using many of the things that they found.
Right, symbolic and useful or utilitarian. Like a lot of the minerals were made into projectile points, different tools, basically. But a lot of the more valuable minerals, or what we might consider valuable, were found like in burials, which tells archaeologists that the American Indians, that they held a special place within those customs.
So, Marcus, what are some of the minerals that are located in this area?
Well, to list a few in alphabetical order: feldspar, flagstone, gold, graphite, iron ore, limestone, marble, ochre, quartzite, sandstone, shale, slate. Bartow County has a really rich supply of minerals.
Thank you for that organized list, Marcus.
It's all from memory.
So, Marcus, what is a brief history of the minerals and mining practices in the area?
Okay, so to wrap up, let's say 1,500 years of mining history in a couple minutes?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's start with American Indians who, as we've talked about in other podcasts, and you can see on some of the panels, collected and gathered minerals to make tools and other items.
Right.
So they were kind of the first ones to exploit these resources.
Yeah. And then the Europeans' exploration in the New World was partly fueled by the search for gold.
Right. When De Soto came through Georgia, I mean, they were looking for gold, which they didn't find.
Yeah.
So then, as settlers and colonists moved south from kind of the New England area and into Georgia, they were looking for minerals. And in the late 1820s was when they discovered what?
Gold.
Gold, which ironically, as we said, De Soto didn't find, but it was there.
Yeah, he just didn't look hard enough.
He just didn't look hard enough, that's right. So gold was found, but it was especially found in northwest Georgia, which if you look on some early maps, like early 1800s maps, that area was reserved as Cherokee country.
Right.
But as has kind of been the trend, or as was the trend with...
The gold rush fueled removal of the Cherokees from the land.
Which had already kind of been in the works, trying to remove the Indians, but gold definitely spurred it on. So you had the removal, the Trail of Tears, so the American Indians are removed. And then kind of the next boom in mining in this part of Georgia was iron. Bartow County has some of the richest iron deposits in the world.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Some of the old reports say that they basically say that they'd never seen richer veins of ore.
But that mining was put... the mining of the iron ore was really put to an end when Sherman came through, right?
Yeah, he visited the area, as you may know, on his march to the sea. And, when you mine iron, you tend to make things with iron. And during the Civil War, there were furnaces in the area that were making cannons and cannonballs, which apparently Sherman didn't really appreciate, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah, and so he put an end to that.
But then afterwards they started mining other things.
Yeah, they were looking for saltpeter, which is a component of gunpowder, which is also helpful during a war. But as they were searching for saltpeter, they ended up learning new methods and starting to get at different minerals, which led to the big boom in mining in the late 1800s.
Okay.
And then that continues kind of today. I mean, it's definitely not as much of an industry as it once was, but there are still mines in the area. So there you go.
Good job. If you'd like to learn more about minerals and their history in the area, you can visit the local Tellus Science Museum in Cartersville.
And you can check out the Department of Transportation's publication, Mining and Mineral Industries of North Georgia, a Historic Context.
Thanks for listening. The Leake Mounds Interpretive Trail project was done in partnership with the City of Cartersville and Bartow County. Music by Tommy Wildcat.